crawling within. The house was old, its bones creaking in protest against the world outside. Sarah had always loved the creaks, the whispers of the house settling into itself. But now they were different. They were alive. The first sign was a small, red bump on her arm. It itched, a maddening itch that she scratched until it bled. It healed quickly, leaving a faint scar. Then came the others, spreading like a dark vine across her skin. They were itchy, painful, and growing. At night, she'd wake to an unbearable sensation. Something was moving beneath her skin, a tiny, insistent scratching. It was like a colony of insects, burrowing deeper and deeper. Panic would grip her as she tried to claw at her skin, to rip open the infected flesh. But there was nothing there, just smooth skin and the phantom itch. Fear gnawed at her. She isolated herself, the world becoming a blur of shadows and the constant, creeping sensation. The mirrors became her enemy, reflecting a body marred by red, swollen bumps. Her reflection was a stranger, a monstrous caricature of herself. Days turned into a haze of pain medication and paranoia. The house seemed to close in around her, the creaks morphing into sinister laughter. Shadows danced on the walls, taking grotesque shapes. Her mind was a battlefield, logic and terror locked in a desperate struggle. Then the changes began. Her nails grew long and sharp, curved like talons. Her teeth ached with a pressure that was almost pleasurable, as if something was pushing from within. Her hair, once soft and brown, was now a matted, oily black. The crawling sensation intensified. It was no longer just beneath her skin, but inside her head, in her chest, everywhere. She could feel them multiplying, growing stronger. Her body was becoming a breeding ground for something alien, something terrifying. One night, as she lay in bed, the darkness seemed to press in on her. A low, guttural growl echoed through the house, a sound that was both inside and outside her. Fear turned to acceptance as she realized what was happening. She was becoming it. The transformation was agonizing. Her bones cracked and shifted, her body contorting into unnatural shapes. The ceiling seemed to lower, pressing down on her with crushing force. And then, the final breakthrough. Something burst forth from her chest, a wet, glistening mass that writhed and pulsed with a sickening vitality. As consciousness slipped away, she felt a sense of peace. The crawling was over. The thing inside her was free. And in that moment of surrender, she realized that the horror was not just in what she was becoming, but in the realization that it was, in some twisted way, a part of her. Sarah awoke to a world transformed. Her body was a grotesque caricature of its former self. Her skin was stretched tight, a sickly green hue replacing her natural color. Her eyes, once a warm brown, were now black pits, devoid of life. And the creature, the thing that had emerged from her chest, was gone. A cold dread settled over her. She was alone with this new, abhorrent form. The house, once comforting, was now a prison. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows more menacing than ever. She moved with a newfound, unnatural grace, her body fluid and sinuous. The world seemed slowed down, as if seen through thick water. Sounds were amplified, the creak of the house a deafening cacophony. Smells, once familiar and comforting, were now overwhelming, a nauseating assault on her senses. Hunger gnawed at her, a primal urge that consumed her thoughts. She stumbled to the kitchen, drawn by a faint scent. A half-eaten apple lay on the counter. With a revulsion she couldn't understand, she lunged at it, her teeth sinking into the fruit with a sickening crunch. The taste was metallic, and as she chewed, she felt something change within her. A warmth spread through her body, a sense of satisfaction. Days turned into nights in a blur of feeding and endless wandering. She explored the house, discovering hidden corners and forgotten spaces. In the attic, she found an old, leather-bound book. The pages were filled with strange symbols and diagrams, and as she stared at them, a connection formed, a resonance deep within her being. The book spoke of a hidden world, a place beyond the veil of human perception. It spoke of creatures like her, beings born from the shadows, creatures of pure instinct and insatiable hunger. It was a world of darkness and horror, but also of power. As she delved deeper into the book, changes began to occur. Her senses sharpened, her strength increased. The world outside the house became a temptation, a vast, unexplored territory filled with potential prey. One night, driven by an irresistible urge, she ventured outside. The world was different now, seen through the eyes of a predator. Shadows were alive, filled with the promise of sustenance. The moon cast an eerie glow, illuminating a world transformed into a hunting ground. As she moved through the night, a new confidence grew within her. She was no longer Sarah, the frightened woman. She was something else, something terrifying and powerful. And as she stalked her prey, a thrill of anticipation coursed through her veins. The hunt had begun. The night was alive with the scent of fear. A small town, nestled in the heart of rural America, was unaware of the predator stalking its streets. Sarah moved like a shadow, her senses heightened, her body a lethal weapon. She tasted the air, a cocktail of human fear and animal instinct. Her prey was a young couple, lost in the intoxicating haze of youth. They walked hand in hand, oblivious to the darkness that crept closer. A flicker of fear sparked in the man's eyes as he glanced over his shoulder. Sarah froze, her predatory instincts honed in on his terror. It was a game, a dance of hunter and prey. She let them walk a little further, savoring the anticipation. Then she struck. With a speed that defied human comprehension, she was upon them. A scream tore from the woman's lips, a sound that was both horrifying and exhilarating. The man fought, but his struggles were futile against her inhuman strength. The night was filled with the sounds of their terror, a symphony of fear that was music to her ears. When it was over, the night was silent. The couple was gone, consumed by the darkness. Sarah stood amidst the remnants of her feast, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. She was a predator, pure and simple, and she was thriving. As dawn approached, she retreated to the old house. The book, her guide to this new world, held promises of even greater power. She turned its pages, her mind racing. There were others like her, creatures of the night. A world of darkness awaited, a world where she belonged. Days turned into weeks. She became a phantom, a shadow that moved through the night. Her legend grew, whispered in hushed tones. People called her the night crawler, a creature of myth and terror. But she was more than that. She was a survivor, an evolution, a predator at the top of the food chain. And as she looked out at the world, a world trembling in fear, she felt a sense of power she had never known. This was her domain, and she was queen.